Hey, so greetings, it's Mike from LiveMyAssOff.com. I'm here at work and just wanted to check in. Yes, I'm wearing a hoodie sweatshirt and a very thick scarf because it is May in San Diego. And here's an interesting thing about San Diego. When I first moved here, is this quality of picture lousy right now? This camera seems like pretty lame because it's only on a $2,000 MacBook Pro. Like, I don't get why. Anyway. The interesting thing about moving to San Diego when I did in January of like 1989 was that I was moving from New England, and so therefore sunny Southern California, and it was absolutely sunny. And for January it was amazing because I actually I drove cross country, and so came through. I stopped in Canada near Toronto to see my grandparents, and then from there I went down to Indiana to see my uncle and aunt and my cousins, and then from there I went to Colorado and my buddies John and Eric, I believe. Yeah, Eric. Both of them flew out and to Colorado, and then we spent some time skiing in Winter Park and Vail, and Vail was amazing. And then from there, drove to. I was, of course, my goal was to end up in San Diego. From there, drove to Las Vegas, where I stayed for like one night or maybe 2 nights or whatever. In 1989, so you can imagine the difference. There was no the glitz and the glamour was nothing like it is today, for sure. And I remember I stayed at the Dunes, which I believe the Dunes ended up being the Bellagio, but I don't know that for sure. Caesars was there and always there, but I believe that was and then the Sands was across the street. Sorry, further down and across the street, which then, of course, became Venetian Palazzo. So. Anyway, regardless of that, and then I ended up in San Diego, and it was in January, mid-January, and I got off of the I-5 freeway and drove into La Jolla, and I remember I saw this beautiful blonde girl driving a Rolls Royce, and I thought, wow, I like this city I'm staying. And then went down to La Jolla Cove, if you know where that is. It's like this beautiful kind of grassy area with all these palm trees. And if you've never been there, if you want some idea of what it might look like in cartoon form, read a Dr. Seuss book, because all of his illustrations on the crazy, like, twisted trees and things that he has from his books, he took from what, in his mind, translated from reality into sort of cartoon children's book form. Into his books, and so when you see the yellow-bellied sneetches or the crazy trees and stuff, that's actually the vision from La Jolla Cove. We have these really tall, thin palm trees that are like right over the water. Anyway, so I end up there, and it's nice, man. And I like open the newspaper. And so here's an interesting thing. So I opened the newspaper, the San Diego Union Tribune, which is it still called, and was looking for apartments because that's what you did at the time. There was really no internet. Certainly, there was dial-up, and I was able to get to various computers and bulletin board BBSs, and I would email my dad, for example, who also had an account at his company as well as university where he was starting to teach, UMass Boston. But that said, you didn't have the ability to search things, right? And you guys know this. I mean, this isn't, any news. Oh my God, really? There was no internet? Yes, of course. I lived through it and I survived. It was okay. But the point to the newspaper thing was the fact that I had already been getting the San Diego Union Tribune daily at home as sort of a way to learn about here. As I was driving in this morning, I have a mentor, sponsor, whatever, and I check in with him every morning as I drive in. So that he has some litmus test for my sanity. Because I can't necessarily tell, which way I'm going on a daily basis. But if I check in with him every day, and then kind of review it every 2 weeks or every week or whatever, he could be like, Yeah, so I'm seeing a trend, Mike, of you being infinitely more and more irritated, or infinitely more and more happy, or infinitely more and more delusional that you have all this money because you're all proud of yourself that you didn't pay taxes for 4 years, which isn't the case. But anyway, the point is that he can call me on my behavior and has a nice sort of overarching view of it, which helps in summary to keep me from going bonkers. um, so anyway, so I was getting this newspaper back home, and I would read it every day to learn about San Diego because knew I was coming here, and I would look at the price of apartments, and I would look at the local news because actually at that time newspapers were more related to local news. For sure, they had international feeds, of course, that came from like Associated Press, and they would republish that data. But there was a lot more local stuff. Now I bring that up because as I was driving in this morning, I was thinking to myself, what pieces of technology have entered my life that actually have added value? And it's not every single one of them, because there's a lot of things that I think that a lot of technologies that are in our lives simply because of technology's sake. But there are other things that I don't even consider. But after using them for so many years, I realized, wow, that really did take unnecessary behaviors off my plate. So I'll give you a great example. I don't need to go through the iteration of having physical paper delivered to my home with news from a faraway location. I simply go to youtube.com and I type in Togo, West Africa, or I type in Thailand, or I type in cell phone service Vietnam, and then all of a sudden I'm given. So that has really added massive value. And the reason that came to mind is because I was driving in, and I get in like around 6 in the morning or whatever, and so for the most part, certainly at this time of year, the sun is coming up. However, it is still sort of dark, and so therefore the cars behind me have their lights on, right? And the experience is the rear view mirror, sometimes that light is too bright. And in the past, what I would do is I would reach up and I would flip a little manual toggle switch, and that would change the angle of the mirror inside and therefore dim it, and there wouldn't be light coming into my face. And I thought it was a little bright or whatever. And so even today, my default setting was, I'm going to reach up and turn on or off the automatic dimming in my mirror. This is now the third car I've had where it has two sensors there, and it senses the level of brightness in comparison behind you in comparison to the brightness in front of you, and therefore it changes basically the pitch of the mirror behind it, allowing for a dimming, right? And in the couple cars in the past, there would be an on-off switch to just turn that off, whether I just wanted to. But now there is no on-off switch. It's only sensors, and so I can't really control it. But of course, it controls it for me almost better than I might do. And I thought, God, that's something I don't even do. Technology has handled that for me, and I don't even think about it. It just sort of, takes care of it. De-brightnessing. It removes irritation from my eyes. The other thing that I was thinking about as I was driving in is I also said, well, what else? I looked down past the steering wheel and the on-off switch, right, for the headlights. This is now my third car that I've owned that has auto. And so I no longer mess with the rear view mirror brightness thing. And I literally have not turned on or off the headlights in a car I've owned for now almost 9 years. And so I'm like, okay, where else in my life are there things that technology has just handled for me? And I really appreciate that. When I pause and sort of think about all of the things I'm grateful for, that is one of those things. I mean, I'm grateful that I'm breathing. I'm very grateful that I got to wake up this morning. And I was sharing with a guy the other day. He said, I said, how you meet people, and of course the default setting is, hey, how's it going? And the expectation is that they will respond with fine, right? And then you move on with your day, and you pass them in the hallway, and you never really interface. But it's not really a question of, I really care for your well-being. Could you describe to me your mood at the moment? No. It's just like, hey, how's it going? Good. Okay, great. But this guy, he was sharing, he said, oh man, I had to get up so early this morning, and so he was like, I'm kind of tired. I had to get up so early this morning. And I said to him, Yeah, but you know, like when you went to bed last night, there were a bunch of people that went to bed last night with the idea that they were going to wake up this morning, and they didn't. They didn't get the choice. They didn't get the opportunity. They're dead now. So your life ain't so shitty, dude. Not only that, you get to wake up. I mean, this is a guy that I was near here in San Diego, it's downtown, at a business office, and I said, plus, bro, you woke up in San Diego. And I mean, the United States in general is pretty friggin' spectacular, but I used to live in St. Louis, and the people were amazing. They were wonderful. The cost of living was, at the time, about a third of what I was paying in San Diego. And my salary was more there than it was in San Diego. But like I always say, again, the people were wonderful, but every morning I woke up in St. Louis. And that was not as pleasurable for me as waking up in San Diego. So anyway, I just thought of that as I was driving in, and I wanted to check in and kind of give, again, one of these sort of contrast discussions about how there are these things that have infiltrated my life specific to technology that literally do make it better. It's not just technology for technology's sake. It's technology so that there are certain iterations of behavior I do not even need to engage in that haven't removed any sort of, that have removed things that were unnecessary for my life. It's unnecessary for me to toggle this switch. It's unnecessary for me to bother with these lights, But I mean, there's some things that are just on such grand scale that I don't need to think about. I am no longer, the fact that anyone is late paying their credit cards is ridiculous because it is not, there's so many systems in place that you just have to go click, that you just have to click, and it handles it for you. And so automatic withdrawal, all that. Anyway, so I really dig that stuff, and it's why I'm still in technology. It's why I still believe that my role is to add the maximum amount of value to people's lives with the amount of technology I know to improve the quality of their lives to the best of my ability, and I do that imperfectly. So there you go. Anyway, it's Mike's from LiveMyAssOff.com saying, I hope wherever you're watching this, truly, you're safe and happy, and I hope you're living the dream, because if you're not living the dream, you're doing it wrong. Ciao.